Welcome to Bible Study with Fred, and we're going to begin with my introduction to the book of Job, which we'll be discussing next before we go to Exodus. And you can find my commentary on Amazon.com for the book of Job if you want to purchase it in Kindle version or in a paperback version if you want to use it to follow along with me. This is the introduction today. Some scholarship has the book of Job written between the 7th and 4th centuries before Christ. Their reasons for doing this show two things. One is a rejection of God's inspiration of the Bible, in that they regard any similarity with later writings as proof that it was written later, thereby denying that similarity is a natural consequence of God's ultimate authorship of all the books of the Bible. Two has to do with more of an arrogance that comes from drawing conclusions from insufficient information. There are good reasons to believe that the book of Job was written before Moses wrote the first five books of the Bible, starting with Genesis. It contains no reference to Hebrew culture. Job, the head of a family and possibly a prince or a king, is the one offering sacrifices that the priests would have offered under the Mosaic law. And Job's lifespan indicates a much earlier age of writing than some modern scholars presume. It's safe for a Christian to assume that it was written anywhere from 2000 BC to 1500 BC. There are many difficulties in trying to place Job in a known historical context. Most historical evidence lies buried in the dirt, and all the spades and shovels of archaeology will never dig that evidence up. Scholars are left with what they have. Here is a primary source of history, written by a man who witnessed the events written about, with no countering documentation to argue that it was a fraud, a fantasy, or political propaganda. Those who deny its authenticity or the truth of its statements only have their own prejudices, assumptions, worldview, and unwillingness to accept any of the Bible as written by men who were guided by the Holy Spirit to go on. Having answered generally when it was written, let's examine who wrote it. Internally, from the text, it is clear that Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, wrote it. Beginning in chapter 32, he writes of himself in the third person and then in the first person. Verse 16 giving us the needed clue as to the authorship of the book. Job 32:16. When I had waited, for they spake not, but stood still and answered no more. The book of Job has a great deal to say about human suffering as well as science. It is unlike any other book of its time and very important for Christians to study and understand. Many of our deepest questions about life are answered in it, while for some questions we are explicitly told that we will never have an answer satisfactory to us in this life. Some questions are we're explicitly told we'll never have an answer satisfactory to us in this life. So next time we're going to start with Job 1:1 and description of Job and his wealth, and we'll continue. I hope that this is basic theology, what we're going to learn in this book. It's amazing. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to talking to you again.